What can Ric Ocasek's estate teach us about the elective share? My name is Andrew Ayers. I'm an estate planning and business law attorney with offices in Edina, Minnesota and New York City. Today we're going to take a quick look back at Ric Ocasek's estate and see what it can teach us when it comes to the elective share. As viewers of my other videos may know, when a celebrity estate hits the news, it's often interesting to look at it and see how you can learn lessons from what the celebrity did or didn't do and apply them to your personal life. We've looked at things like Aretha Franklin's wills, Prince's lack of a will, Tom Petty's widow being involved in a will contest, and then of course David Bowie, who had an amazing estate plan all drafted out. Now in the case of Ric Ocasek, the former leader of the Cars, he was married to Paulina Porizkova. And they were having a bit of a rocky time, and they'd actually started divorce proceedings before he died. Even though they were divorcing, they were still living under the same roof, and he had had surgery, and then shortly after the surgery he died. However, right before the surgery, he had actually created a new will that specifically cut her out of his estate. Now, once he died, the question is, would that will be found to be valid and effective as it relates to his wife? Now, the interesting thing here is the most important part came down to whether or not they were still married. And in fact, they were technically still married, which means that his wife, Paulina, was entitled to what's called the elective share in New York. So when we look at a New York-based estate plan, and many other states also have what's called the elective share, you can attempt to disinherit your spouse. Now, if you're going through a divorce, you definitely want to make sure that you have your estate plan updated, especially after you're finally divorced, so that it's very clear what you intend to do. Because prior to this will, Ric's will before this actually gave everything in his estate to Paulina. And so if he had not updated his will at all, then she would have still been entitled to his entire estate when he died. So if you're going through a divorce, you need to make sure that you talk to your estate planning attorney during the process and then after your divorce is finalized. So in this situation, because they weren't formally divorced, Paulina can exercise what's called the elective share in New York. And what that means is that your spouse has a right to claim either $50,000 or 1/3 of your estate, whichever is more. Now, as the former lead singer of the Cars, chances are Ric Ocasek's estate was way beyond $50,000, or $150,000, way beyond the 1/3 of $50,000 that she would have received. And in fact, since the time of his death, they have actually finally settled the amount. They haven't disclosed what Paulina received. However, she did receive some money. And this goes back to the elective share, allowing somebody to make that claim against an estate when they are your spouse. This claim does not, however, also flow down to your children. So in the will that Ric signed right before his death, he also cut out 2 of his adult children who didn't have the same right as Paulina to then try to opt against the estate and get an elective share. This elective share only extends to your spouse. Now, I've actually seen some people in the past try to get creative with this. So, for example, I reviewed a will that left 33 cents to the husband's wife, and the reason he did this is he claimed his estate was only worth $1, and that was in fact the 1/3. That was 1/3 of his estate. Now, of course, his estate was worth a lot more than that, and the elective share in his case was well beyond the $50,000. So even if you leave a portion of your estate to your spouse that's less than the 1/3 of the $50,000, your spouse can still make a claim for the elective share. So let's say your estate is worth a lot more, but you say, I'm just leaving my wife $25,000. Well, she can still claim $50,000 in New York under the elective share. Now here in Minnesota, we have a different version of the elective share that has a percentage based upon how many years you're married, and that's how you can decide how much you've been entitled to for the elective share statute. So the first thing I will tell you is, if you're looking at this for your particular estate plan, if you're looking to disinherit a spouse or give them less than what you think they deserve, you want to look at the elective share in your state and see what the law says. Make sure you understand it, because it makes no sense to create an estate plan that contradicts the elective share when all that's going to happen is your spouse will be able to make that election after you're gone. The elective share is not something that comes up every day. Now, Ric Ocasek gave us a great example that was in the news. We get a good way to look at it, and maybe this applies to your situation depending upon where you are with your spouse, especially if you're going through a divorce. But since this doesn't come up every day, you probably have more questions. So if you'd like to talk further about this, you can go to my website, andrewmayers.com. There's a red Legal Strategy Session button on the front page. Click that and you'll be taken to my calendar where we can set up a 15 or 20-minute phone call. We call it a legal strategy session where we can talk about where you are in this process and give you some next steps and some options. And if you found this video to be insightful, I'd love it if you'd hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, you can subscribe to my channel. As I said, when I see new celebrity estate plans, I always try to hop on and do a quick video and see how what's going on with the celebrities can apply to our lives. And hopefully you found this a very helpful video, and I will see you in our next one.